You might be surprised, but this is my first interview. No, at least in English. So this is Colin
and Robin Walker.
Robin. Is it
Robin?
No, Colin. Colin's our B&B. That's why.
I'm Robin. Robin of Robin Hood. Yes.
We have here Robin, who has a beautiful 1973 Porsche 911 2.4 litre
2.4S, yes,
in unrestored condition.
Yes, it's a rough car. It's not a very beautiful car because every time it comes out of the garage it rains. So and it is used very regularly, and for long mileages, and around Europe it's used for what the car was intended for. It's to be driven.
Okay, you don't see a lot of these cars today in unrestored condition.
No.
Is it different in England?
No, I think I'm quite rare that everybody wants a beautiful car because they're trying to improve an asset. As I have no intention of selling the car, the value is not important to me.
Okay.
I'm easy. They want to polish the car, I want to drive the car. So mechanically, it's very good.
Yeah. So you've been doing a big tour, as I understand, through Europe?
Yes, we've been to Mulhouse to see the Schlumpf Museum. We then drove the Stelvio, spent a day driving the Stelvio Pass, which is better than any track day. And then we've been through Zell am See, stayed at Zell am See, which we've been to in the past, to Ferry Porsche's mausoleum in Wolfgang Porsche's garden, and also previously we've been to Butzi Porsche design office in Zell am See, then on to Stuttgart to see the museum and the tribute to Butzi Porsche, who was the president of of Porsche Club Great Britain for many years, and now been replaced by Wolfgang Porsche as president. And then on to Vals in Holland, a place where the 356 International stayed, and then back through to home. About 3,000 kilometres for the tour.
Yeah. And your wife's coming always with you?
Yes, she's we're always together. Yes.
Not complaining.
No, well, she has this phrase which I'm not quite sure. I don't quite understand. She says "slow down," but I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. About the car, it was restored in the 90s, you say?
It was restored and put back on the road in 1992, at which point it went to the Porsche Parade in Cortina d'Ampezzo, the Italian Porsche Parade, which I think has still been one of the best parades we've ever been to. Wonderful. And after being put back on the road, the windscreen was put in the morning, finally put in the morning, and we drove to Italy in the afternoon and the next day, and took part in the parade. So it was put together and then driven. And I think it's probably about 150,000 miles since then. So it's currently 430,000 kilometres on the clock, and still counting. 430,000 K, yes.
Great. Well, that's what the cars are made for. Are you going to restore it, or are you going to leave it like that?
I think in the fullness of time I will restore it, but I'm not sure. It's a very costly business at the moment, and I'm retired with limited funding, and so it is a significant cost these days.
Are there many 911S in England? I see many cars here.
Yes, there's quite a few S's. The later cars are well, they made more of them, so there are more around. The 2.2 and 2.4. Certainly the 2.4s are quite popular. Yeah. The early cars, the very early cars, the 2 litre and the short wheelbase. There's not that many of them around. The club, the register in the club for the early 911 has about 450 cars registered, of which probably near half of those are later models, i.e. the 2.4, a few 2.2 and 2.4s, and most of them coupes. Not so many Targas. They're becoming rare.
Okay.
I think they've rusted away in England with all our rain.
That's the same in Germany. And as a Porsche owner in England, are you considered exotic, not owning a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley?
No, it's not a common thing to have an older car, an older Porsche in UK. The club, which we're a member of, Porsche Club Great Britain, is I think the second or third largest club in the world. We currently have about 14,000 members, so it covers all models, and we think that the early cars are not covered as well as they should be. There's not so many events for them. So this one is where we are, Castle Hedingham today, is particularly good for the early cars.
Great, Robin. Thank you very much for
welcome.
the interview. It's a beautiful location, beautiful car,
good.
And nice information, and maybe see each other next year.
Yes, hopefully next year. I'll try and stay alive next year, and next year will be the 50th anniversary of the Porsche 911. So we will certainly have our Porsche 911 on the road at that time.
Okay, well, I'll invite some Germans until then.
Yeah.
Okay.
The year after, my 356 will be 50 years old, so it has to be on the road before 2014.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pretty good.
So, if you have a minute.
Okay, right, where do you want me?
Somewhere here.
Okay.
I think we'll get there. So we have here Mr. Prill, who is actually from England, not from Germany, but his ancestors come from Germany.
A long time
maybe.
ago, apparently, yeah.
So you care for a lot of cars, you told me.
We do, yeah. We only deal in classic Porsches, 99.9% of them pre-1974. We've had the pleasure over the years of working on everything from Gmund coupes and super lights through to 917s, and thankfully that's still going.
Great. The car we have here is a very special one. It's a 1964 911. There are not so many of them.
No. Very lucky to have it. It's interesting. We always see the developments, and when you look at this car, you see the subtle differences from the 65 car, how it was perfected very quickly. There's lots of details, maybe I can show you some of them, that just mark the car out as 64 production and not 65. Had the great pleasure to race this with my business partner at Le Mans Classic, and it was just perfect. The car, typical 911, tighten the wheel nuts, check the oil. The conditions were perfect, a little damp, so we were the highest placed Porsche in Plateau 4. Wonderful.
Okay. But what is the fascination for your English, and why don't you drive an MG or other cars like that, which are beautiful cars?
Well, no, they are beautiful looking, but unfortunately, I'm a classically trained engineer, and when I was very young, I got involved in motorcycles and cars, and a friend of mine took me to Silverstone, where actually Porsche Club Great Britain had a large display, and there was a little presentation of a 356, a 912 and a 911, and one of the owners was kind enough to allow me to look at the cars, and I just suddenly got it. I thought, this is brilliant. This is a company who've made a whole industry out of doing more with less. There's probably more parts in a Jaguar cylinder head than there are in the whole 911, and that's why they've been so successful.
Okay.
It's the simplification and perfect application of good engineering principles, and I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. I'm lucky enough to have driven every car I ever dreamt about. I've raced 917s, RS61s, 904s, 910s, 911s. I love them all, and I'm very privileged.
Mm-hmm. What about the market in Great Britain? Are there many people who buy cars as an investment like they do in Germany at the moment?
There are. I think in every market there are people, because prices have been rising, and that's not been unnoticed. I'd like to think that the Porsche mark really is still driven by enthusiasts, and I think that's the way it should be. And it's fine. I think that there's anything wrong with protecting your investment, but we don't see too many people buying them as pure investments. Most of our customers, and I think look around you today, most of the people here are pure enthusiasts for the marque, and the fact that the money safe or is increasing is just a benefit. They love them, which is great, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. Thank you. Could you show me some of the differences?
Yes,
of
of
64
course.
and a 65.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting.
There's some very
for me.
obvious ones, and there's some more subtle as well. The 911, when you open the boot, there's a panel here, isn't there? And it has lots of pressings in it. Well, this car is completely flat. Obviously, you know, that's a very obvious one. But when you look at the way the car is constructed in certain areas, slightly different, different manufacturing methods, where they were obviously perfecting the production models and making them more easy to produce. There's also some differences in the front. So you can notice, obviously, early cars and going into 65, the top of the struts was fixed, which was a disadvantage because they couldn't actually change the camber. So actually midway through 1965 they re-homologated the car, and from then right the way through to 1989 you had a movable turret, so you could actually move the shock absorber. But all 64 cars and 901s were like that. This panel is slightly different. You can see the differences there. Obviously four screw, which went into the 65 model year as well. Washer bottle in the wing. Actually inside the wing.
Okay.
Porsche were a company who put a lot of work into the cars. Look at the 356 in early 1960s. The 356 was almost £1,000 more than an E-Type here. So you really wanted it. You had to want that car, and really that was because of the labour involved with making it. And if you look at all the production models that Porsche made, successive models, they always tried to rationalise things to make them a little bit easier to produce and to keep their prices competitive. So the 356 was incredibly labour intensive to make the bodies, and when they designed the 911 they made it more simple to manufacture, but without compromising the quality, and that's the key to Porsche. And in all the models you see these rationalisations of the design all the way through, in the pursuit of not only engineering perfection but manufacturing perfection as well, which is important, and that's why they ended up with such successful motor cars.
So, Alexander Klein, Porsche Museum, und ich bin zuständig beim Porsche Museum für das Fahrzeugmanagement, sprich alles, was die Sammlung umfasst, Fahrzeugeinsatzplanung, Lagerung, Vorortbetreuung, Vorbereitung, Restaurierung, Versicherung, also alle administrativen Aufgaben rund ums Thema Fahrzeug und die weltweite Logistik und Disposition.
Deshalb ist das Porsche Museum hier, ist ja doch ein logistischer Aufwand, hier auch Autos auszustellen?
Das Porsche Museum ist überall da vertreten, wo wir einen historischen Playground sehen. Und der historische Playground ist in England vor allem gegeben. England ist sozusagen die Wiege des Automobilenthusiasmus. Wir haben hier einen sehr, sehr großen Porsche Club. Der zweitgrößte Porsche Club der Welt ist in England beherbergt. Und für uns ist es natürlich dementsprechend selbstverständlich, dass da, wo viele Leute sich für interessieren, dass wir im Porsche Museum auch präsent sind und thematisch begleitend dementsprechend auch Fahrzeuge zur Verfügung stellen. Also wir haben hier in Hedingham eigentlich nur 2 Fahrzeuge zu statischen Zwecken zur Verfügung gestellt, thematisch begleitend zu dem Abend, den wir gestern hatten. Wir hatten gestern Abend den Wick Alford Abend, und dementsprechend haben wir einen 917 Langheck mitgebracht und auch ein Formel 2 Fahrzeug, weil wir der Meinung sind, dass wir gerade bei dem Event, das vor allem die Baujahre abdeckt, der 50er, 60er und 70er Jahre, dass da gerade ein Formel 2 Fahrzeug so den Zeitgeist dieser Zeit ganz gut widerspiegelt.
Ja, wunderschöne Autos, die man ja auch in Stuttgart sehen kann. Wir haben vorhin kurz, das erste, was kam, als ich gesprochen habe mit Engländern, war das Porsche Museum. Da war ich war auch schon da, ich fand das riesig, das ist von der Architektur her toll. ein bisschen wenig Autos, aber das macht natürlich auch den Reiz aus irgendwie. Was gibt es Neues im Porsche Museum oder was wird es in Zukunft Neues geben?
Also grundsätzlich ist ja so, das Porsche Museum verstehen wir natürlich als Gebäude, das die Ausstellung von 85 Autos repräsentiert. Wir haben ja keine fixe Ausstellung wie andere Automobilmuseen, sondern unsere Ausstellung lebt. Allein schon vor dem Hintergrund, dass wir ein rollendes Museum haben, wo wir Fahrzeuge direkt aus dem Museum rausnehmen, dann direkt bei den Fahrveranstaltungen dieser Welt einsetzen. Somit haben wir immer einen stetigen Wechsel in der Ausstellung. Ja, was ist passiert? Wir haben insgesamt eine Sammlung von 510 Fahrzeugen und was uns dieses Jahr ja, sicherlich auf Trab gehalten hat, wenn man das so in Anführungszeichen sagen darf, ist, wir haben unsere Sammlungshallen umgezogen. Das heißt, wir haben jetzt die Möglichkeit, dass alle unsere Sammlungsfahrzeuge direkt in der Nähe von Stuttgart beherbergt sind und dementsprechend war das natürlich auch ein relativ großer logistischer und baulicher Aufwand, alles mal zusammenzupacken und natürlich auch unter den gegebenen Sicherheitsstandards auch einzulagern.
Okay, gut. Ja, dann danke ich ganz herzlich für das ganz kleine Interview. Jetzt gehen wir erstmal in die Sonne, würde ich sagen.
Genau, eine Mütze voll Sonne. Hier in England ist ja auch nicht so oft der Fall. Ja, genau.
Und dann sehen wir uns vielleicht nächstes Jahr wieder hier.
Genau, würde mich freuen. Vielen Dank. Gerne.
Once
Are we
again.
running?
Yeah, that is what I hope so. The right question.
Your assistant has wandered off.
She's
Gone
wandered
away.
off.